Hello, friends, and thank you for tuning in to our broadcast today. In a few moments, we're going to take you into a live session where Bishop Wayne was teaching a message designed to feed your faith and to elevate your understanding. We invite you to join in as if you were here in person and to light up the chat box with your comments and confirmations. This hour of power is your time to recharge, to renew, and even to reset your mind for a life of purpose, passion, and power. At the end of this message, we have an important announcement for you. So do stay tuned. But now let's go into the hour of power with Bishop Wayne Malcolm.
I'm going to kick off with some context for the concept. We're going to look at God's gift to Solomon. I'm going to talk about kingdom consciousness. I'm going to talk about overwhelming responsibility, Solomonic values, wisdom defined, wisdom expressed, and then Solomon's wealth. So let's dive in to give some context to the concept. 1 Kings 4 verse 29 to 30 read, "And God gave Solomon wisdom and understanding beyond measure, and breadth of mind like the sand on the seashore, so that Solomon's wisdom surpassed the wisdom of all the people of the East and all the wisdom of Egypt." Wow and wow. So God gave him wisdom and understanding beyond measure. So that was limitless insight, limitless understanding, limitless. I mean, it was boundless, Solomon's understanding, his insight, his wisdom was literally boundless. And the Bible says God gave him breadth of mind like the sand on the seashore, so that Solomon's wisdom surpassed the wisdom of all the people of the East who prided themselves on their wisdom. And of course, Egypt was pretty much considered to be the capital, the center of learning and understanding and wisdom and insight. And yet Solomon's wisdom surpassed all of them put together. He had breadth of mind. He had capacity to think and to reason, beyond measure. And God gave this to him. So the question is, why? Why did God give Solomon so much wisdom? Why? Why give it to Solomon? So here's the answer. The answer is because he valued it. He valued it above long life, riches, and the life of his enemies. And we can read about this in 1 Kings 3, verse 7 to 13. And with your permission, I'm going to read it really fast because I just think it's something that we need to grasp here today, why it is that God gave Solomon such boundless wisdom. It's because he valued it. He valued it more than health, wealth, and happiness. So here goes. Here's Solomon's prayer. "And now, O Lord my God, thou hast made thy servant king instead of David my father, and I am but a little child. I know not how to go out or come in, and thy servant is in the midst of thy people, which thou hast chosen, a great people that cannot be numbered nor counted for multitude. Give therefore thy servant an understanding heart to judge thy people, that I may discern between good and bad. For who is able to judge this, thy so great a people?" And the speech pleased the Lord, that Solomon had asked this thing. And God said unto him, "Because thou hast asked this thing, and hast not asked for thyself long life," that's health, "neither hast thou asked riches for thyself," that's wealth, "nor hast thou asked the life of thine enemies," that's happiness, "but hast asked for thyself understanding to discern judgment. Behold, I have done according to thy words. Lo, I have given thee a wise and understanding heart, so that there was none like thee before thee, neither after thee shall any arise like unto thee. And I have also given thee that which thou hast not asked, both riches and honor, so that there shall not be any among the kings like unto thee all thy days." Amen and amen. So we see why God gave him wisdom, why God gave him this boundless, limitless grace to discern, to understand, and to know. God gave it to him because he valued it. and he valued it more than health, wealth, and happiness. Preceding these verses, God literally gave Solomon a blank check. God said, Solomon, ask for whatever you want. Whatever you want, I'm going to give it to you. And Solomon didn't ask for health, wealth, or happiness. He didn't ask for long life. He didn't ask for riches. He didn't ask for the life of his enemies. Instead, he said, I need understanding. I need discernment. I need wisdom. I need wisdom. And so because he valued it, God gave it to him. Now that's a clue. That is a clue for someone who's praying for wisdom. All right? For someone who's saying, God, give me wisdom, this is a clue. Because God gives you what you value. Okay? God will give you what you value. And if you value wisdom, you can ask for wisdom and God will give it to you. So let's explain why it is that Solomon valued wisdom. Why for Solomon, wisdom was more important than health, wealth, and happiness. It was more important than silver and gold, riches, land, honor, power, prestige. It was more important to him than anything else that would come along with the title king. Let's figure out why Solomon valued wisdom. So here goes. Top left, Solomon inherited a kingdom. He inherited a kingdom, and with it, huge responsibilities for national prosperity, productivity, protection, and peace. So Solomon was the son of King David, and when King David passed away, Solomon inherited the responsibility for governing the kingdom of Israel. He inherited a kingdom, and he was now responsible for its prosperity, its productivity or its industry, its protection, its safety, its security, and its peace. It's the well-being of the citizens. He was now responsible for that. And because he was overwhelmed with the responsibility, he realized that no amount of money, no amount of fame and fortune, no amount of prestige and influence would enable him to govern the great people of God. No amount of it would enable him to govern, but if he was wise, he could make sure that the kingdom was prosperous. He could make sure it was productive. He could make sure it was protected, and he could make sure that its citizens were well. So Solomon's appetite for understanding and his value of wisdom came from his kingdom consciousness. What did it come from? His kingdom consciousness. Kingdom consciousness is the starting point, because once you become conscious of your kingdom and of your responsibilities as the king of that kingdom, it's going to give you an appetite for understanding. Okay? So kingdom consciousness for Solomon meant that he assumed responsibility for a realm. He assumed responsibility for a realm. And only when you assume responsibility for a realm are you truly kingdom conscious. So we get a lot of people today using the word kingdom as a catchphrase, as a buzzword, and everything's kingdom. And I'm not into religion. I'm into kingdom, and I'm into kingdom concepts and kingdom business and kingdom ministry and king. But see, we're using the phrase without understanding what the kingdom really means. Now, in summary, the kingdom of God is a kingdom of kings and kingdoms. All right? Because God never intended to rule directly on planet Earth. Okay? God's direct rule is in another realm called heaven. Heaven is his throne. Okay? The earth is his footstool. And this means that God exercises direct rule in the heavenlies. But he has given the earth to man, so that the earth is man's domain. And God's intention is that we rule on earth while he rules in our hearts. God's original intention was that the earth would be an extension of heaven that is governed by the people who are governed by God. And this means that the kingdom of God is not a kingdom of slaves and subjects, but it is a kingdom of kings, so that everyone in the kingdom is a part of the royal family, a member of the royal family. Everyone in the kingdom is in fact a king and has been allotted or assigned a domain or a unique realm over which you are to rule. Now, we're not called to rule over each other. We are not given dominion over each other. What we are given is a space of grace. What we are given is a skill set to govern, so that each of us can be the king of a particular thing. Now, I like the way that Psalms 8 verse 6 puts it. When Psalms 8 verse 6 talks about man, it literally says, you made him to have dominion over the works of your hands. So if you're looking for purpose, here's your biblical purpose. You were made to manage an aspect of God's work. You made him to have dominion over the works of your hands means that you made him to manage an aspect of God's work. So that each of us is uniquely designed and destined to manage a particular aspect of God's work. None of us is designed or equipped to manage everything that God is doing in the world, but we are each equipped, designed, and destined to manage a particular aspect of God's work. And that particular aspect of his work is your realm of responsibility. That is your realm of responsibility. And only when you assume responsibility for that realm are you truly kingdom conscious. All right? So let's say in the business arena, right? When you realize that your business is an aspect of God's work and you assume responsibility for that realm, then now you are kingdom conscious. Right? When you realize that your ministry is God's work and that he has chosen you to manage that particular aspect of his work and you assume responsibility for that realm, you are now kingdom conscious. Whatever it is that you manage or that you steward for God's glory, that is your realm of responsibility. And so, for Solomon, it was the kingdom of Israel. And he realized that the true king of Israel is the Lord himself, but that he had been given the responsibility for the prosperity, the productivity, the protection, and the peace of that realm. And see, once you are kingdom conscious and you assume responsibility for a realm, then that's going to organize your priorities. It's going to organize your priorities as follows. Solomon became conscious of his inadequacies. You see it in his prayer. He says, I am but a little child. I know not how to go out or come in. What he was saying is this. I realize that the responsibility on my shoulders is bigger than me. It's bigger than my current capacity to fulfill. I have inherited a realm of responsibility that is so much bigger than me. And see, once you realize that your realm of responsibility places a demand on you like nothing else ever has, then like Solomon, you're going to develop an appetite for understanding. You're going to begin to value wisdom. You're going to begin to value insight and understanding and knowledge and skills. You will value these things because the realm of your responsibility is so much bigger than you. Now, can I pause for just a moment and talk about big dreams and big goals? Can I do that? Big dreams and big goals. Let me tell you that that there's a difference between a good idea and a God idea. Good ideas, typically fall within your own means, your own reach, and your own years. Good ideas are more like an ambition, something that you want to do, something that actually benefits you directly. And so these are good ideas, but God ideas are so much bigger than you. Like when God gives you an idea, it will typically be beyond your means. In other words, you can't do it by yourself. When God gives you an idea, it'll typically be beyond your reach. In other words, it will benefit people that you'll never meet. And typically, when God gives you an idea, it actually is beyond your years. In other words, it will continue serving and servicing people long after you are resting and awaiting for the resurrection. So the reality is that when God gives you an assignment and God gives you a vision and God gives you a realm of responsibility, you will immediately become aware of your inadequacies. Immediately. And you see this all the way through the Bible. When God gives people an assignment, the first thing they say, well, how can I do this? Like that was Moses' response. How can I do this? That was Gideon's response. How can I do this? And on, you'll find that when God gives you something, it's bigger than you, and so your immediate need is for resourcefulness and for resources. Now let's read this. Solomon's love and need of wisdom was born out of his sense of overwhelming responsibility as king of a kingdom. It was born out of his sense of overwhelming responsibility. In other words, he knew that it will take more to get where I'm going than it did to get me where I am. And I'm going to say that again for the benefit of all of us. It will take more to get where you're going than it did to get where you are. One more time. It'll take more to get where you're going than it did to get where you are. Oh, yeah. And the minute you become conscious of that, straight away, now you are aware of your shortcomings, you're aware of your inadequacies, you're aware of your limitations, and you start to crave knowledge and skills and understanding and insight and wisdom and judgment. You start to crave these things because you know that your future demands it. You know that where God is sending you, you can't bring your current skill set there. You're going to have to bring an advanced skill set there. How many of you know what I'm talking about? Let me see some fire in the chat box if you know what I'm talking about. That where God is taking you is going to require a bigger, a better, wiser, smarter, faster version of you. Where God is taking you is going to place a demand on you for much more than it took to get you where you are. And so what I've written over here in the right-hand column is that the quest for wisdom starts when you become conscious of your own knowledge gaps. Come on, somebody. If you're not conscious of your knowledge gaps, it's because your vision is too small. Once your vision gets bigger and becomes more of a God idea than simply a good idea, becomes more of an assignment than simply an aspiration or an ambition, you will become aware of your knowledge gaps. So a good example is that if God shows you that in your future, you're going to be the CEO of an organization that has offices in many nations, right away, you are going to become aware of gaps in your knowledge, things that you don't know, things that you need to know, skills. Okay, let me carry knowledge gaps, blind spots. Blind spots are worse than knowledge gaps, right? Because we're aware of our knowledge gaps, but a blind spot is where you don't know that you don't know something that you are going to need to know in the future. You don't even know that you don't know something you're going to need to know in the future. So we have blind spots, and then we have skills deficiencies, right? Because we haven't had practice, we haven't had experience, we've never done this before. Solomon is stepping into a role he's never done it before. So he has skills deficiencies, and ultimately he is inexperienced. And he becomes aware of this because of his kingdom consciousness and this overwhelming sense of responsibility for where he is going in life. Can anyone relate to what I am saying up in here right about now? Yeah. Okay. So because of his kingdom consciousness and his sense of overwhelming responsibility for a realm that God had set him over, this put his priorities in order. And what we see is that Solomon valued resourcefulness over resources. He valued what? Resourcefulness over resources. I'm going to say it again. He valued what? Resourcefulness over resources. So how do I know he valued these things? Well, if you read his Proverbs, if you read the book of Proverbs, you'll see him over and over and over again stating that knowledge, understanding, and wisdom are more important to him than silver, gold, riches, land, power, prestige, influence. It more important to him than any external benefit was the internal gifts. Okay, and resourcefulness it describes your internal capacity, your internal gift set. And so Solomon valued his internal gifts over any external gain. Over any external gain. And if you meet someone who values external gain over internal gifts, you're meeting someone who cannot fulfill their prophetic destiny, and you're meeting someone who has literally chosen the road to nowhere. Right? Because because your priorities are misplaced, like Esau, who sold his birthright for a bowl of soup. You have put your belly over your birthright, and you cannot have the future of God's design whilst you value the material over the spiritual. So Solomon valued internal gifts over external gain. He valued the spiritual source and root of material success over the material success. Now, I'm not saying he didn't value material success. He obviously did. But spiritual success was more important to him. It was more important to him that he was spiritually rich in terms of knowledge, understanding, wisdom, and his fear of the Lord, his connection with God, his reverence for God. He even said the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. It's the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of the holy is understanding. So that shows you that this man who accumulated a net worth of over $2 trillion in today's money is letting you into his mind that actually the spiritual was more important to him than the material. Solomon valued thoughts over things. Thoughts over things. Wow. Why value thoughts over things? Because things come from thoughts. Okay? Thoughts are the womb out of which things are born. Thoughts are the infrastructure, the invisible infrastructure from which visible material things are made. If you're going to make something substantial, it will start with quality thinking and clear thinking. And so Solomon valued thoughts over things. He valued words over wealth. Wow and wow. Words over wealth, because your words, he said that death and life are in the power of the tongue. Solomon says that you are snared by the words of your mouth, because Solomon understood that his words were like the helm of a ship, small part of the vessel, but it is that helm that determines its direction. James says that the tongue is like the bridle in a horse's mouth. He said, if you want to control the horse, you put the bit in its mouth and you control it from its mouth. And so Solomon understood the power of language, the power of conversation, the power of communication, the power of vocabulary, the power of words. And he valued these things over wealth because he knew that if he could get his language right, his conversation right, his communication right, his vocabulary right, that the wealth would come out of his words. The wealth would come out of his words. The wealth would come out of his words. Okay, Solomon valued mind over matter. Woo! He valued insight over information. Oh wow, that one's a deep one. Let me deal with that for just a minute. Insight over information. What do we mean here? We mean that there is a difference between insight and information, that you can accumulate a lot of information and yet have no insight. The New Testament says it this way: they are ever learning, but never coming to the knowledge of the truth. Because reading books, attending seminars, watching videos will give you information, but insight tells you how to use that information to your advantage. Insight, it makes that information relevant to your situation. Insight makes the information a form of leverage for your goals, your dreams, and your destiny. It's converting the information into strategy, into actionable steps, into warnings, and into ways. That's insight. And Solomon realized a lot of people have knowledge, but few have understanding. So he clearly valued the invisible over the visible. The invisible over the visible. So I'm gonna dive now to a definition for wisdom. I'm gonna give you my definition for wisdom, and feel free to use your own definition for wisdom, but I'm gonna give you my definition for wisdom in this context. Yay! So wisdom is the ability to make decisions that serve your revealed destiny. It is the ability. It is an ability. Wow. Wisdom is an ability. This means it is a skill. Wow. This means it is a verb, or it is an action word. It's something that you do rather than something you simply think. You are not wise in your thoughts. You are wise in your doing. And your thoughts are only wise if they inform or enable your decision making. So the ability to make decisions. Now, can I just say there's a difference between a decision and a choice? There's a difference between decisions and choices, right? Because if you were to look at the structure of the word decision, it's coming from two Latin words which literally mean to cut. To cut. And in fact, if you look at the word itself, you can almost see the word scissors in the word decision, and you can almost see the words incision, because at the root of a decision is a cut. And what a decision means, it means that you have cut away any other option or opportunity. You have cut it away. So if you decide to stand up, you have cut away the possibility of sitting down, laying down, kneeling down, because you've decided to stand up. If you decide to walk, you have cut away driving, cycling, or even running. You've cut it away because you've decided to walk. So whatever you decide to do is literally means that you burn the bridges behind you. And the ability to make decisions that serve your revealed destiny is wisdom. And what do I mean by your revealed destiny? I mean that God has shown you where you belong in life. God has given you a vision of your future. God has planted in you the passion, the appetite, and the assignment to achieve something great, and you can see that greatness in your future, you see the greatness in your future, now you need to make decisions that serve your destiny. Because your decisions will either serve or sabotage your destiny. I'm going to say it again. Your decisions will either serve or sabotage your destiny. So some people are sabotaging their own revealed destiny by making poor decisions, poor quality decisions, and poor choices. So choices are slightly different because with a choice, you choose one or the other. Okay? And you can change your mind. But with a decision, it's more definitive. It's definite. And so a lot of people are sabotaging their own destiny by making poor decisions. Now, I've put something down in the bottom left that I think is important for the purposes of this study. Number one, that wisdom starts with a goal, an objective, or an outcome, right? So I guess that's my way of saying that wisdom starts with a destination, right? Starts with a destination. In the same way that a satellite navigation, right, a navigating system can give you direction, but only if you first give it a destination. You must give it a destination so that it can give you direction. And when it comes to wisdom, if you don't have a clear sense of destination, that is a goal, an objective, an outcome, a dream, a vision. If you don't have one, then you can't make decisions that serve your destiny. And in fact, if you don't have a destination, then any direction will do. Any direction will do. Okay? And so it's important that you get a sense of revealed destiny. And that's what Solomon had when he inherited the throne, when he assumed responsibility for the realm, when he became kingdom conscious. He realized that the greatness of Israel was his destiny. That was his revealed destiny. And so he was now able to make decisions that would serve his destiny rather than decisions that would sabotage his destiny. So I've written here, your choices and not chance determine your destiny. Okay? So some people feel like, some people believe in fate, right? And say, well, actually, it is what it is. It's going to be what it's going to be. I have little or no control over these outcomes. The truth is that your choices are steps that you take in the direction of your destiny or away from your destiny. And so it's very important that your choices are based on wisdom, so that you can move closer and closer to the big picture that God planted in your heart. Finally, wisdom is a way and a warning. Why is it a way? It's a way to get from where you are to where you're meant to be. It's a way of getting out of a situation that is preventing you from realizing your full potential. It's a way of getting what God dreamed and destined for you. But it's equally a warning to avoid the way that leads to destruction. It's equally a warning to avoid the broad and wide road that leads to destruction. It's a warning concerning the wrong way. And so when I think of wisdom, when I'm praying for wisdom, I'm asking God to give me the ability to make decisions that will serve my revealed destiny and not sabotage my destiny. Woo! Is this good or is this good? All right, I can see the bombs going up right now, and I can see the fire. Send up some emojis and let me know if you're blessed so far, because I'm about to turn a corner now and dive into how Solomon's wisdom played out, how it was expressed, how it was demonstrated. And of course, I don't have time to explore this in detail, but I'm going to encourage you to read First Kings chapters 3 to 4. Read chapters 3 and 4 of First Kings, and you'll see how Solomon's wisdom plays out. Right? Remember, he asks God for wisdom. He asks God for understanding, for judgment, for discerning, for an understanding heart. He asked God for it. And God said, because you asked for this, I'm going to give this to you. And it'll be unlike anything before you and anything after you. And I'm also going to give you the things you didn't ask for because you asked for this. Because the truth is that this is the root. You ask for the root, therefore you'll never be without fruit. If you were to ask for the fruit, you will consume the fruit, and one day you'll be without root. But Solomon asked for the root, and God said, I'm going to give it to you. Now, how did it pan out? This is exciting. So here's how Solomon's wisdom panned out. The first test of Solomon's wisdom was a child custody battle between two women. Now, in the modern world, you're typically going to see child custody battles between a man and a woman. But Solomon's first test was a child custody battle between two women, both claiming that the child, the living child, was their child. Both of these women had exactly the same background. They came from the exact same background, and I don't need to say what that background was. You can read about that, but they came from exactly the same background. They both spoke the same language, which is that they were both making a claim that the living child was theirs. And so it was not easy for the untrained eye to discern who was telling the truth and who was telling a lie, because on the surface they looked the same. Now, it's interesting to me that this is the first test of Solomon's wisdom, and I need you to know today that it will always be the first test of your wisdom will be your ability to read the people around you. God help me now. Woo! It is the ability to read the people around you. Because if you accept people on face value and you judge them based on the surface and the superficial, you will let into your life people whose motive and whose agenda is not in your best interest, but is exclusively in their own interest. And so the ability to read people and discern spirits, right? To discern motive, to discern attitude, to discern a lie from the truth, to discern to look beyond what's being said or the resume of the person that is speaking, to be able to look beyond that and to figure out who is worthy of your time, your attention, your favor, your inclusion, your invitation, who is worthy of that. This is literally the first expression of wisdom. And so Solomon put them to the test. And again, I'm speaking to someone today to say that people should not have access to your inner world, your inner circle, your personal life, or your professional plans until they passed the test. I wish I had some help in here. I said they need to pass a test. And if they're opposed to being tested, that's a good sign that they shouldn't be that close to your dreams, your destiny, or your peace and your personal and private world. They shouldn't be that close if they're opposed to answering a few questions, if they're opposed to their claims being qualified, if they are opposed to the suggestion that you need to test them before you admit them. Because what Solomon said is, okay, fine, bring me a sword, cut the baby in two, and each of you take half and go home. But the And, the false mother said, yes, that sounds like a good idea. But the true mother said, no, I would rather the baby live and I suffer. I'll sacrifice me for the life of my baby. And see, what Solomon knew is that the real mother would never allow the baby to die. The real mother would not allow this. So his wisdom was showing him how to read people around him. Because once you become wealthy and you become popular and you become influential, guess what? You're going to attract a lot of people to you. They're going to be attracted to you. But you need to have a mechanism that allows you to discern the spirits, which is the motive, the attitude, the hidden agenda, the secret conversations engaged by people around you before you bring them in at senior levels. Somebody help me scream up in here. So that's why I said I really don't have time tonight to go through each and every one of these, but this is where the wisdom of Solomon is first expressed, and there's a reason why it's the first test of his wisdom, is because it's always going to be the first test of your life, is how you read people. Okay, if you can't read people, you're going to bring the wrong people on board. You're going to let the wrong people in. You are going to disclose things to the wrong people. They will serve to sabotage your success moving forward. So God, give me wisdom. Give me the ability to make decisions that serve my revealed destiny and do not sabotage my revealed destiny. Can I hear an amen from somebody? All right, the next thing you're going to discover as you begin reading through 1 Kings 3 and 4 is that Solomon was strong on organization. He was very, very organized. I mean, he had captains, he had princes, he had managers, he had systems in place, he had structures in place. He had very, very clear job descriptions and SOPs, standard operating procedures. He had organized the kingdom in such a way that he could see everything without having to look. Okay? And everyone was clear about their role, their responsibility, their remit, their limitations. Everyone was organized in his kingdom. Thirdly, he was strong on preparation, which means he was typically years ahead. So, for example, he had set 12 governors over his kingdom, right? Now, this is ingenious. He set 12 governors over his kingdom. And of course, each of them, had leadership roles under them, but they governed each region of the kingdom. And each of these governors had the responsibility of feeding Solomon's house for a whole month, right? So what this meant was that each governor had to accumulate wealth and resources capable of supporting the palace for an entire month. And it literally goes on to say how much it cost to feed the palace for a day. So they had one whole year to collect, right? To grow, to collect, and to bring the tribute that would service the palace for a whole month. And there were 12 of them, so that each month, right, the palace was enriched, it was serviced, it was fed, it was nourished. All of his horses, and I mean, he had thousands of them. All of his servants, he had thousands of them. His wives, I mean, everything had to be serviced, and they had a year to get ready for a month. So this is someone who has put a system in place that's based on foresight and preparation. Now, number 4 is contribution. Solomon insists that everyone benefiting from his wisdom, from his prosperity, from his productivity, from his protection, and from the peace that he had brought to the kingdom, everyone benefiting from it should be contributing to it. That if you're benefiting, you contribute. I'm going to say it again. If you're benefiting, you contribute. And so tribute, which are taxes, Okay? Each of the regions paid taxes. Each of the regions brought gifts. The kings of the earth paid tributes because they benefited from his wisdom. Kings of other countries, they brought an annual subscription. They paid, they gave gifts and taxes to Solomon, which is why he became so phenomenally wealthy, because he used his wisdom to help other kings organize their own kingdoms and experience greater levels of prosperity, productivity, protection, and peace through his wisdom. But he demanded that you make a contribution. Here's the mistake so many of us are making is we just throw out advice. We just give away our wisdom as though it has no value. And then we get offended because we are sometimes throwing our pearl before swine. And what that means is you're giving something precious and valuable to someone that doesn't value it. So Solomon said, no, I'm not doing that. You're going to value the wisdom. You're going to value the wisdom in order to benefit from the wisdom. And this is something Solomon taught in both word and deed. He taught it in his Proverbs that you value the wisdom above the gold and the silver, but he also taught it in the way he operated to say, look, if you want wisdom, then pay for it. If you really want understanding and advice, if you want to be a better leader, if you want to be a more prosperous leader, if you want to be more productive, if you want peace and protection, through my advice and counsel, then pay for it, because that's the proof that you value it and that you're going to put it into action. Number 5, Solomon was a content creator. I wish I had some help in here. Solomon was a content creator. He created content. The Bible says he wrote 3,000 proverbs and he wrote 105 songs. What? So, of course, we have some of them, right? But this guy would sit down and he would write a proverb. Now, the structure of a proverb, it involves a warning and a way. It's a warning to avoid a certain thing and a way to obtain something desirable. So it's a warning to avoid the path that leads to the undesirable and a way to obtain the thing that is desirable. And he would write his proverbs, 3,000 of them. If it was today, Solomon would have the biggest following on Instagram, on TikTok, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Snapchat. He would have the biggest following and on YouTube, because he's constantly creating content and putting it out there. Number 6, Solomon was hot on branding. Branding. Think about it. He became famous for his wisdom. In other words, he said, look, when you hear Solomon, think wisdom. Anytime you hear the word Solomon, think wisdom. He so attached his name to wisdom that he was known for his wisdom all over the world. That's called branding, right? When your name is associated with something of value, that's branding. What about alliances? You know, Solomon had 700 wives, okay? They were actually 700 alliances with other kings, right? So by marrying the king's daughter, it created an alliance with another king. It made of the two kingdoms one overarching kingdom. And so he was about building bridges, making peace. He was about joint ventures. He was about, he was about subcontracting. He was about networking. He was about collaboration. And he was able to collaborate with hundreds of territorial kings. And finally, it was protection and peace. You know, there was no wars during Solomon's reign. It was a peaceful era. And he was able to protect his citizens through his wisdom. That, my friends, that right there, that slide right there, that little teaching right there shows you what wisdom actually looks like. It looks like your ability to discern spirits, attitudes, motives, and agendas of people around you. It is your ability to organize and create systems and structure. It is your ability to anticipate and make preparations today for what's inevitably coming tomorrow. It is your ability to generate income from your gift, to generate income from your gift. So you don't just leave your gift on the table and have to go do some other job to get money. Instead, take the thing that God gave you and turn it into content so it can be marketed and consumed. It's the wisdom for branding, for making alliances, and for protection.
The Spirit-led Business Challenge was epic. The great news is that we're doing it again. From October 28th to the 31st, a group of no more than 12 entrepreneurs with big dreams and legacy goals will gather for a transformational experience. For 1 hour a day over 4 days, I'll coach and train you live on how to build a business that truly partners with God. You'll learn how to cut a success covenant with God, read the biblical blueprints for business success, access your spiritual intelligence, discover God's guide to purpose-driven prosperity. It's live, practical, and interactive with answers to your real questions. Spaces are limited and it's strictly first come, first serve. And for those who secure their spot, I'm including a powerful bonus, my full spiritual intelligence course worth $1,000 completely free. This is your invitation. Don't miss it. Click the link and register today before it's too late. Hey, I'm Bishop Wayne Malcolm, author, coach, and founder of the Epic Kingdom Network. If you've ever felt like something's missing in what you've been taught about Christianity, you're not wrong. Most of us were taught that heaven and the hereafter are the goal, prize, and sole objective of the faith. But the original message of Christ taught us to engage, to influence, and to transform the world. Believe it or not, Jesus didn't die to get us into heaven. He died to get heaven into us, and then through us into the earth. What if I told you that Christianity was never meant to be a religion, but rather a relationship and a global revolution, a divine intervention, not a man-made institution? The original message and mission of Christ was hijacked, diluted, distorted, and replaced with a religion. My new ebook, Kingdom Theology for Kingdom Citizens, is not just another devotional, it's a call to action. A bold reintroduction to the original message of Christ, a message of dominion, not escapism, of transformation, not tradition. You'll learn what it means to rule and reign with Christ, to steward wealth with purpose, to influence government, education, culture, and business as an ambassador of heaven. This book will shift your lens, stir your spirit, and set you on course with divine clarity. And right now, for a limited time, I'm giving you free access to the digital and audiobook versions. No cost, no catch. Just click the link in the description, grab your copy, and step into clarity.
Hey friends, it's Bishop Wayne, and I know that you've been blessed by this message. I just want to say that we launched a kingdom coaching experience, a transformation program. It's called the 40-Day Challenge. And initially, we created it just for students in our kingdom coaching program. But the results and the testimonies that were coming out from people who experienced an identity shift, they were experiencing clarity when it came to their mission, purpose, and assignment. They began to talk about the elevation in their understanding and their attitude, their sense of strategy, and their ability to create systems that would keep generating amazing results for them in virtually every area of their lives. They were coming back to me and saying, this program has literally changed my life. So we decided to put it out to the public, make it available to others, kingdom citizens like you who are serious about the call of God on your life. You're serious about your identity as a kingdom citizen, an ambassador, an operative, someone that God has chosen to represent him in a particular realm of responsibility. So we've made the program available, and it's literally available now. And
I'm going to advise that you visit the link and at least look at the program. You owe it to yourself to at least look at the program, the 40-day challenge. It's transformational.
Hey there, entrepreneurs. If you enjoy the teachings of Bishop Wayne Malcolm, I've got something amazing for you. Introducing the New Breed Community, an exclusive online platform for kingdom-conscious entrepreneurs, professionals, investors, and creators. This isn't just a community, it's a movement where we discuss and explore kingdom concepts. Here, kingdom-minded people connect, share, learn, and grow together. Inside, you'll find exclusive content from Bishop Wayne Malcolm, including special sessions just for members. And the best part? It's free to join. The New Breed Community sits on the Heartbeat platform, where Bishop Wayne Malcolm is excited to meet you online. Join us for weekly Q&A sessions with Bishop Wayne, and get exclusive insights that can transform your life. Love to read? Join our book club to feed your mind and spirit. Got a prayer request? Post it and let's lift each other up. Have a testimony? Share how God's goodness is shining in your life. We're more than just a community, we're a movement. Discover the powerful relationship between your profession and your purpose. Join us now on the Heartbeat platform. Connect with us and let's grow together. Bishop Wayne Malcolm and the New Breed Community are waiting for you. So what are you waiting for? Hit that join button and step into a world of connection and growth. A warm welcome awaits you. See you on the inside.